Welcome back with a new math tutorial. Our lesson today about radical expressions. What is the meaning of radical expression? We are talking now about the roots, how we are dealing with the roots. So the first formula that we have, if we have the square root of a times b, it will be equals the square root of a times the square root of b. For example, if we have the square root of 36, we know that the square root of 36 equals the square root of 4 multiplied by 9, because 36 is equal 4 times 9. So we can write it as the square root of 4 times the square root of 9. The square root of 4 equals 2 times the square root of 9, which equal to 3. So 2 times 3 equal to 6. And the square root of 36 equal to 6. You will find the same answer. As we are following for multiplication, you can solve it for division. The square root of a over b equals the square root of a over the square root of b. In this problem, we need to simplify each expression. We have the square root of a. With an easy way, we can use a factorization to solve. Just we have 8. Choose any two numbers. If you multiply them, the answer will be 8. So we can say 8 multiplied by 10. 8 is not a prime number, so we can continue. 8 is equals 2 multiplied by 4. 2 is a prime number. 4 is not a prime number, so we can say it will be 2 multiplied by 2. 10, which equals 2 multiplied by 5. So 8 is equals 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 5. Because we have a square root from each two similar number, we can take one outside the square root. Also, we have two similar number, we can take one outside the square root. For any single number, just write it inside the square root. So the answer now will be 2 times 2 equals 4, root 5. The square root of 54, by the same way, 54, which equals 9 multiplied by 6. 9, which equals 3 multiplied by 3. So we have two similar numbers. And that will be 3 multiplied by 2. We said for each two similar number, we will take one outside because we have a square root. If that's cubic root, from each three similar number, we'll take one. If that's the fourth root, from each four similar number, we take one outside. The single number or the number which not repeated, just write it inside the square root. So we have 3 multiplied by 2. So the answer now will be 3 multiplied by the square root of 6. As we multiply the number outside the square root, we will multiply the number inside the square root. So the answer will be 3 root 6. The square root of 2 multiplied by the square root of 14. Now it will be equals the square root of 2 multiplied by 14. We have two numbers, 2 and 14. 2 is a prime number. 14 is equals 2 multiplied by 7. 2 is a prime and 7 is a prime. So the answer, from each two similar number, because we have a square root, we will take one outside. The single number, we will just write it inside the square root. So the answer will be 2 root 7. The square root of 90, x bar 3, y bar 4, z to the power 5. At the first 90, we know that 90, which equals 9 multiplied by 10. 9, which equals 3 multiplied by 3. Both of them are prime. 10 is equals 2 multiplied by 5. Now we can solve. From each two similar number, we just take one outside. And still we have here 2 times 5 equals 10. And that's with the square root of 9. Now for x. X to the power 3. Because that's the square root, we need an even power. We know that. X to the power 3, which equals x bar 2 times x. Y bar 4 is an even number. Leave it. Z bar 5, it will be z bar 4 multiplied by z. If the power is odd, just subtract 1. So x bar 3, it will be x bar 2 times x. Z bar 5 will be z bar 4 times z. Now we can solve. So it will be, just leave a space and write the square root of 10. X bar 2, the square root of x bar 2, the square root divide the power by 2. So we just write x. And x is single, just leave it inside. Y bar 4, just write y. Divide the power by 2. The square root divide the power by 2. Because of that, I need an even power. 4 divided by 2 equals 2. Now we have z to the power 4. So it will be z to the power 2. And still we have z as single number, just write it inside. For any variable, if the answer is odd power, just write inside the absolute value. So it will be 3, the absolute value of x, multiplied by y bar 2, z bar 2, all of that, times the square root of 10, xz. Again for this point, if you have a variable with odd power, just write it inside the absolute value. The square root of 5 times the square root of 10. Now we have 5 and 10. Just write 5 inside the circle, and we have 2 multiplied by 5. Both of them are prime numbers. From each two similar number, we just write 1 outside. The single number, just write it inside the square root. The square root of 32. We know that 32 is equals 8 multiplied by 4. Now 8 is equals 2 multiplied by 4. 2 is a prime number. 4 is 2 multiplied by 2. And the 4 is also 2 multiplied by 2. From each two similar number, we will take 1 outside. So we will have 2 outside. From each two similar number, we have 2 outside. And still we have a single number which is 2. Now with a power. R power 2, because the power is even, so just write R and divide the power by 2. 2 divided by 2 equals 1. Because the power is odd, write inside the absolute value. K power 5. K power 5, which equals K to the power 2. T power 5. Divided in two parts. T power 4 to divided by 2 and T. T is a single number, write it inside the square root. T power 4, you can divide the power by 2, so it will be T to the power 2. Now simplify. 2 times 2 equals 4. The absolute value of R. K to the power 2, T to the power 2, the square root of 2T. The square root of 6 times the square root of 8. Now we have 6 multiplied by 8. We know that 6 is equals 3 multiplied by 2. Now we have 3 and 2. 2 multiplied by 4. 2 is a prime number, continuous 4. So it will be 2 times 2. From each two similar number, we just write 1 outside. From each two similar number, we just write 1 outside. The number was written outside, will multiply together. The number will be inside the square root, will be multiplied together. The only single number which is 3, write it inside. So the answer now will be 4 root 3. The square root of 56. As we said before, the square root of 36 equals 3 root 6. So 3 outside and 6 inside. And now we have x. X is a single number, just leave it. Just take the power which can be divided by 2. Y to the power 10, because we can divide 10 by 2, so we have y to the power 5. The power is odd, don't forget to write inside the absolute value. Z to the power 5. We can divide 5 by 2, so it will be z to the power 4 times z. Z is a single number, just write inside the square root. Z power 4, so it will be z 4 divided by 2 equals 2. The square root divide the power which is written inside by 2. So now it will be equals 3, the absolute value of y to the power 5 times z to the power 2, the square root of 6xz. In this problem, we need to simplify. The square root of 35 over 15. You can simplify it, it will be, you can divide it by 5, it will be 7. Divided by 5 equals 3. So it will be the square root of 7 over 3. As we said before, we can write it as the square root of 7 over the square root of 3. The simplest form of the fraction, you can write root at denominator. To remove root from the denominator, you need to multiply it by the square root of the denominator. Root 3 times root 3. Root 7 times root 3, it will be root 21. Just write root and multiply the two numbers together. Root 3 times root 3. Any root multiplied by itself equals the number under the square root. So the answer will be the square root of 21 over 3. Again, how we solve it. At the first, I simplified, so it will be the square root of 7 over 3. Then divide it in two parts. The square root of 7 over the square root of 3. From the simplest form, you need to remove root 3 from the denominator. To remove it, you need to multiply by root 3 over root 3. So root 7 times root 3 equals root 21. Root 3 times root 3 equals 3. So the answer will be root 21 over 3. The square root of 6y over the square root of 12. You can just write it in one root to simplify it, because we can simplify 6 and 12. So 6y over 12. Now if you divide it by 6, the answer will be y. If you divide it by 12, the answer will be 2. All of that under the square root. We can divide it in two different square roots. So it will be the square root of y over the square root of 2. You can't leave root at denominator, so you need to multiply by root 2 over root 2. Root y times root 2, it will be the square root of 2y. Root 2 times root 2 equals the number under the square root. So the answer will be the square root of 2y over 2, which is c. In this problem, we need to simplify. We will use the conjugate to rationalize this denominator. As we said before, we can't leave root at denominator. If we have only root, we can multiply it by root 2 over root 2. But now we have 5 plus root 2. How we can solve it? To solve this problem, we need to multiply by the conjugate. What is the meaning of the conjugate? Just multiply by the same denominator, just looking to the denominator. 5 plus root 2. The first number will be the same sign. Exchange the middle sign. If that's plus, it will be minus. If that's minus, it will be plus. And the second number will be the same. So the conjugate for any number, just write the first number without any change, put minus, change the sign, and the second number will be the same. Now multiply them. It will be 3 multiplied by 5 minus root 2 over, because you have the same bracket but with different sign, it means now we have difference of two squares. 5 times 5 equals 25. Positive times negative equal negative. Root 2 times root 2 equals 2. So step number 1, you multiply by the conjugate. If you want to multiply by the conjugate, just we have 3 multiplied by 5 minus root 2 at the denominator. 5 times 5, 25. Positive times negative equal negative. Root times root equals the number under the square root. Now we can simplify. 3 times 5 equals 50. Minus 3 times root 2 equals 3 root 2. Over 25 minus 2 equals 23. So we can leave it like that because now the denominator is rational number, or we can find it as 15 over 23 minus 3 root 2 over 23. 7 over 3 minus root 7. Because we have a root at denominator, that's not the simplest form. The conjugate will be, write the first number without any change. Change the sign with the second number. So it will be equals 7 times 3 equals 21. Plus 7 times root 7 equals 7 root 7. Now the denominator. If you look at the denominator, we'll find the same bracket but with different sign. It means difference of two squares. That's the reason that we multiply by the conjugate. 3 times 3 equals 9. Positive times negative equal negative. Root 7 times root 7 equals 7. So it will be equals 21 minus 7 root 7 over 2. 3 over 2 plus root 2. Because we have root at denominator and we have plus, it means you need to multiply by the conjugate. The conjugate will be 2 minus root 2. You just write the first number without any change, change the sign, write the second number. Now it will be equals 3 times 2 equals 6 minus 3 times root 2, it will be 3 root 2. The denominator. 2 times 2 equals 4 minus root 2 times root 2 equals 2. So the answer now would be 6 minus 3 root 2 over 2. Now you can simplify. So it will be 6 over 2 minus 3 root 2 over 2. 6 over 2 which equals 3. So you can simplify it one more time. So it will be 3 minus 3 root 2 over 2. Simplify each of the following expression. 5 root 2 plus 7 root 2 minus 6 root 2. How we can simplify it? If I ask you, I need to simplify 5x plus 7x minus 6x. How you can simplify it? Because all of them are like terms, so we can say 5 plus 7 equals 12. Minus 6, it will be equal 6. And write the variable without any change. So because we have root 2 and root 2 and root 2, just write 2 root 2 without any change. 5 plus 7 equals 12. Minus 6 equals 6. So the answer will be 6 root 2. Now we have 2 root 18 plus 2 root 32 plus root 70. Now you can simplify it. Step number 1, you need to simplify root 18. Write 2 without any change. Root 18, if you need to simplify it, you have two ways. You can simplify by using calculator or by using factorization. If you are solving by using factorization, as we explained it before, it will be equals 3 root 2 plus, write 2, the square root of 32. If you need to simplify by using calculator or by using factorization, you will find that it will be 4 root 2. You can check factorizing by using factorization at the beginning of the video. Now we have 72. 72 which equals to 6 root 2. Now it will be equals 2 times 3 equals 6 root 2 plus 8 root 2 because we have 2 times 4 equals 8 plus 6 root 2. All of them now we have root 2, so we can simplify it. It will be root 2 without any change. 6 plus 8 equals 14 plus 6 equals 20. So the answer will be 20 root 2. 3 root 2 minus 5 root 2 plus 4 root 2 equals 3 minus 5 equals negative 2 plus 4 equals 2. So the answer now will be 2 root 2. 6 root 11 plus 2 root 11 minus 9 root 11. 6 plus 2 equals 8. Minus 9 equals negative 1. So it will be negative 1 root 11, which equals negative root 11. 4 root 54 plus 2 root 24. At the first, we need to simplify. That's 4. The square root of 54 equals 3 root 6 by using factorization or by using calculator. Plus, write 2. The square root of 24 equals 2 root 6. So the answer now will be 4 times 3 equals 12 root 6 plus 4 root 6, 10 root 7 plus 5 root 11 plus 4 root 7 minus 6 root 11. Now we have like terms. The like terms that we have root 7 and root 7, root 11 and root 11. So at the first it will be 10 plus 4 equals 14. And write root 7. 5 minus 6 equals negative 1. So it will be negative 1 root 11. 3 root 5 times 2 root 5 plus 5 root 3. At the first by using distributive property. 3 times 2 equals 6. Times root 5 times root 5 equals 5. Plus 3 times 5 equals 15. Times root 5 times root 3. If you have root times root, just write root. And 5 times 3 equals 50. So the answer now in the simplest form, 6 times 5 equals 30. Plus 15 root 50. 3 root 2 times 2 root 6. At the first one, multiply the number by the number. 3 times 2 equals 6. Now we have root 2 times root 6. If you remember that we say, that's 2 and that's 6. 2 is a prime number. So 6 is equal to 2 multiplied by 3. So it will be, because from each 2 repeated number, we just take 1 outside. The single number will be written under the square root. So the answer now will be 6 times 2 equals 12 root 3. 2 root 6 times 7 root 3. At the first, 2 times 7 equals 40. Now we have 6 times 3. That's 6 and that's 3. 3 is a prime number. 6, which equals 2 multiplied by 3. From each 2 similar number, we just make 1 outside and the single number will be under the square root. Now we have 14 times 3, which equals 42. 42, the square root of 2. 9 times 11, which equals 99. The square root of 5 times 50, because we have a square root. So we just write 5 and 50. That's 5 as a prime number. 15 will be 5 times 3. From each 2 repeated number, we just take 1 outside and still we have 3 inside. 99 times 5 equals 495. Root 3. In 28 we have 3 root 5 times 2 root 5 plus 5 root 3. We will use distributive property. I will multiply the number by the number. 3 times 2 equals 6. Times root 5 times root 5. Any root times itself equals the number under the square root. Plus 3 times 5 root 3. 3 times 5 equals 50. Root 5 times root 3 equals root 50. That will be the simplest form. So 5 times 6 equals 30. Plus 15 root 50. 3 root 2 times 4 root 2 plus 6 root 2. The number by the number. 3 times 4 equals 12. Root 2 times root 3 equals root 6. Plus 3 times 6 equals 18. Root 2 times root 2, any root times itself equals the number under the square root. So the answer now will be 12 root 6 plus 18 times 2 equals 36. You have to write the number at the first, so it will be 36 plus 12 root 6. 5 root 3 times 3 root 2 minus root 3. 5 root 3 times 3 root 2. The number times the number. 5 times 3 equals 50. Root 3 times root 2 equals root 6. Minus 5 times 1 equals 5. Root 3 times root 3 equals 3. So it will be 15 root 6 minus 5 times 3 equals 50. You have to write the number at the first, so it will be negative 15 plus 15 root 6. In this problem, we need to find the area of the rectangle. The area of the rectangle equals the length multiplied by the width. So we can say that the area is equal. The length was equals root 5 plus 4 root 3 times 5 root 2 minus root 3. So by using distributive property, root 5 times 5 root 2, 1 times 5 equals 5. Root 5 times root 2 equals root 10. Positive times negative equals negative. Root 5 times root 3 equals root 50. Now 4 root 3 times 5 root 2. 4 times 5 equals 20. Root 3 times root 2 equals root 6. Positive times negative equals negative. 4 times 1 equals 4. Root 3 times root 3 equals 3. So we can simplify. Negative 4 times 3 equals negative 12. Plus 5 root 10. minus root 15 plus 20 root 6. We can simplify it more because they are different and not like terms. We can simplify it only if we have the same number under the square root. In this problem, we need to find the area of the rhombus. As we know that the area of the rhombus half times the product of its diagonal. So we can say that the area is equals half times the first diagonal, which equals 8 root 5 minus 3 root 6 times 6 root 5 minus 2 root 3. Leave 1 over 2 without any change. Now we have 8 times 6 equals 48. Root 5 times root 5 equals 5. 8 times negative 2 equals negative 16. Root 5 times root 3 equals root 15. Negative 3 times 6 equals negative 18. Root 6 times root 5 equals root 30. Negative 3 times negative 2 equals positive 6. Root 6 times root 3 equals 3 root 2. Now we can simplify them. Leave 1 over 2 without any change. 48 times 5 equals 240. Minus 16 root 15 without any change. Minus 18 root 30. Plus 18 root 2. Now if you need to multiply by 1 over 2, you will use distributive property. So the answer now will be half times 240 equals 120. Minus half times 16 equals 8. 8 root 15. Half times 18 equals negative 9 root 30. Half times 18 equals positive 9 root 2. And that's all about the lesson of today.